Ever heard of Babylon? And I don't just mean like in history class. Have you ever really stopped and thought about just how wealthy that city was? Like, mind-blowingly rich. We're talking legendary wealth here. And get this, today we're diving into a book that claims to hold the secrets from Babylon. The Richest Man in Babylon.
Okay, before you think, oh no, not another boring history lesson, let me tell you. The Richest Man in Babylon is not your typical finance book.
Yeah, it's not like reading a textbook, right?
Exactly. It's packed with these really captivating parables. They're stories, but with serious money lessons woven right in.
And it's not like some high and mighty financial expert talking down to you, is it?
Not at all. In fact, we meet characters just like you and me. Take Vance here, for example. He's a chariot builder, really skilled at his craft. And then there's Cobby, a musician. They both work incredibly hard, but just can't seem to get ahead financially.
I think a lot of people can relate to that feeling.
Absolutely. But what's so interesting about them is their willingness to seek out answers. They go to Arkad, the richest man in Babylon, and he's willing to share his wisdom with them.
This idea that knowledge, especially about finances, can be life-changing. That's pretty powerful. So is Arkad like the original financial guru?
You could say that. He's living proof that it's not about luck. It's about understanding how money works. And the best part, he's not keeping it a secret. He lays out what he calls 7 cures for a lean purse. These are like core principles that can totally change your whole money mindset.
7 cures. Okay, now you've got me really intrigued. Cure number 1, lay it on me. What's the secret?
Cure number 1 is all about, get this, starting your purse to fattening.
Starting your purse to fattening. Okay, I like it already.
It's huge. Before you even think about spending a dime, Arkad says, you've got to pay yourself first.
Meaning?
You've got to set aside at least 1/10 of everything you earn. Think of it kind of like...
Like that emergency fund you know you should have, but just keep putting off.
Exactly. Remember the story in the book about the egg basket?
Okay, refresh my memory.
You add more eggs to the basket than you take out, and you know what happens. You end up with a basket overflowing with eggs. That's the power of consistent saving.
So simple, yet so many of us don't do it. Okay, but life happens. There are always temptations. Which brings us to cure number 2, right? Control thy expenditures. I can already feel my wallet getting nervous.
Right. It's all about being mindful about your spending. It's like that story with Cobby. He almost buys that fancy new lyre. We've all been there, right?
Oh, yes, totally.
Cure number 2 is about taking a step back and asking yourself, do I need this or do I just want it? Like that time you were eyeing that really expensive coffee maker, the one with all the bells and whistles. Did you need it?
Touché. All right, I'm hooked. What's the next cure in Arkad's financial medicine cabinet? Okay, cure number 3. Hit me with it. What's the magic formula?
This is where things get really interesting. Cure number 3 is all about making thy gold multiply.
So we're not talking about burying our gold coins in the backyard.
Nope. This is about putting your savings to work for you, generating passive income. It's like the story of Agar, the shield maker.
What does he do?
He borrows some money, right? Uses it to buy the highest quality materials, crafts these incredible shields, and then sells them.
Yeah.
He not only makes enough to pay back the loan, but he's got a nice profit on top of that. That's investing in action.
Okay, investing. That word always sounds so intimidating, like it's something only Wall Street guys in fancy suits do.
Not at all.
Yeah.
It's really just about putting your money into something that has the potential to grow over time. It could be something as simple as a high-yield savings account, or maybe even real estate. The important thing is that your money is working as hard as you are, making more money for you.
I like the sound of that. But honestly, there are so many of those like too good to be true investment schemes out there. It makes you kind of nervous to even think about it.
I totally get it. That's why cure number 4 is so important. It's all about protecting what you've earned. Guard thy treasures from loss. That's what Arkad tells us.
In other words, don't fall for every get-rich-quick scheme that comes along.
You got it.
Yeah.
It's like human nature to want things to be easy, right?
Easy money, sure.
But this cure is a good reminder to stop, take a breath, maybe do a little research, and hey, don't be afraid to talk to a financial expert, someone who actually knows what they're talking about.
I think that's great advice no matter what you're investing in. Speaking of expert advice, though, what about cure number 5? Make of thy dwelling a profitable investment. Is that like flipping houses in ancient Babylon or something?
Not exactly, but it is about the idea of owning your own place. Think about it. Paying rent every month, it's like you're just filling someone else's treasure chest. But when you own your home, you're putting your money to work for you, building equity, and creating a more stable financial future for yourself.
It's like they always say, rent is the only bill you pay where you don't get anything back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's talk about the future for a second, because cure number 6 is all about ensuring a future income.
That's the one I think a lot of people struggle with. It's easy to get caught up in the here and now, like, I need those new shoes, or I have to have that new gadget. But we're not always thinking about our future selves, are we?
It's so true. It's like that story about Anson, the sandal maker. Remember him?
Yeah, vaguely.
He was really good about putting a little bit of money aside from every paycheck consistently throughout his working life. And you know what? He was able to enjoy his retirement without having to worry about money.
I think that peace of mind is something we all want. All right, let's wrap up these cures. What's number 7 all about?
Cure number 7 is all about investing in yourself. Increase thy ability to earn. It's about always learning new things, picking up new skills, and finding ways to earn more money.
So it's not just about managing the money you have coming in, but figuring out ways to make even more.
You got it. Take a class, learn a new trade, or even just find ways to become more efficient in your current job. The point is to never get complacent and always be looking for ways to grow.
I love that. Okay, so we've got these 7 awesome cures for a lean purse. But are we talking about a one-time fix, or is it more about like adopting a whole new way of thinking about money?
That's the best part.
Mm.
It's not like Arkad is giving us a quick fix, you know. He's sharing a philosophy, a way of life. These cures, when you put them all together, they create this incredible foundation for financial well-being. It's about the big picture.
And speaking of big picture wisdom, we can't forget about those 5 famous laws of gold, the ones Calabab shares with his servants, right?
Absolutely. These laws are like the pure, concentrated essence of financial wisdom passed down for generations.
And it all starts with that great story about Calabab. He's this wealthy guy, and he decides he wants to share his fortune with his loyal servants. But here's the thing.
He's not just going to hand him a bunch of gold, right? He understands that real wealth, lasting wealth, it comes from knowing how to get it and, even more importantly, how to hold on to it.
It's like that saying, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime.
Exactly. It's about empowering them with knowledge. And that's where these 5 laws of gold come in. They're like a step-by-step guide to making sure that once you have wealth, it doesn't just disappear, you actually make it grow.
All right, I'm definitely hooked. Give me law number 1. Okay, lay it on me. Law number 1 of the 5 laws of gold.
Law number 1, it's like the foundation of everything. Ready for this? Gold cometh gladly, and increasing quantity to any man who will put by not less than 1/10 of his earnings to create an estate for his future and that of his family.
Saving consistently, paying yourself first. We're hearing that a lot, aren't we?
It's essential. And law number 2, it just builds on that idea. Gold laboreth diligently and contentedly for the wise owner who finds for it profitable employment, multiplying even as the flocks of the field. So don't stuff it under the mattress. Make that money work for you. Exactly. This is where smart investing comes into play. But then law number 3 kind of throws in a little caution. It says, gold clingeth to the protection of the cautious owner who invests it under the advice of men wise in its handling.
Don't be afraid to ask for help, even with your money.
Exactly. Have you ever been tempted, like by those can't miss opportunities, the ones that promise to make you rich really fast?
Oh, who hasn't? Social media is full of them these days.
Well, law number 4, that's what it warns us about. It says, gold slippeth away from the man who invests it in businesses or purposes with which he is not familiar or which are not approved by those skilled in its keep.
If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. That's what I always say. Okay, last but not least, law number 5. What's the final word on building wealth?
Law number 5, it basically tells us to be realistic. It says, gold flees the ant who would force it to impossible earnings, or who followeth the alluring advice of tricksters and schemers, or who trusts it to his own inexperience and romantic desires in investment.
Slow and steady wins the race. Right. Forget the get-rich-quick schemes. It's all about those time-tested principles.
Exactly. And the thing I love about this book is how it brings all these principles to life through those great stories. Remember Sharunada? He was that incredibly successful merchant. And remember his grandson, Hadangula.
Oh, Hadan. He had a lot to learn. I thought it was interesting how Sharunada had once been a slave himself.
That's such a powerful part of the story. He uses his own life story to teach Hadangula about the importance of things like hard work and being humble. Like, remember Megiddo? He was that really hardworking farmer.
What about him?
Even as a slave, Megiddo found so much dignity and meaning in his work.
It makes you think, doesn't it? Our attitude about work can make a huge difference.
Totally. And don't forget about Erud. He was Sharwanada's business partner, and he'd also been a slave. He learned the hard way that real wealth, it isn't given to you. You earn it through your dedication, your perseverance.
I love how Hadan's character changes so much throughout the story. He really grows.
It's inspiring, isn't it?
Yeah.
It shows that no matter where you start in life, you can absolutely turn things around when you embrace the right principles. And speaking of turning things around, did you find Dabasir's story relatable at all? The way he goes from being completely overwhelmed by debt to taking control of his finances.
That one really hit home for me. I think most people have struggled with debt at some point.
Mm.
And I loved how he used that three-part plan to tackle his debt.
It's so simple, but it works. What does he do? He starts by setting aside money for himself, then allocates a portion for his living expenses, and finally, anything extra he puts toward paying off those debts.
It's the perfect example of how to put those principles we've been talking about into action in the real world.
Right. He doesn't just sit around wishing his debt would go away. He faces it head on. He makes a plan, and he sticks to it. He took control, and he found freedom from all those past financial mistakes.
It gives you hope. It reminds you that we're not stuck with the financial baggage from our past. We can all change our relationship with money and build a better future for ourselves.
One step at a time.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into The Richest Man in Babylon, what's the one thing you want our listeners to take away from it all?
I think the biggest takeaway is that even though these principles have been around for centuries, they're still completely relevant to our lives today.
They're timeless.
Financial well-being, it's not about getting lucky. It's not about winning the lottery. It's about being intentional. It's about developing those positive habits, those good financial habits, and playing the long game.
It's about taking control.
Yes.
If you're feeling inspired, we encourage you to pick up a copy of The Richest Man in Babylon. Dive into it, explore these timeless principles for yourself.
It's a book you'll find yourself coming back to over and over. Trust me, you'll discover something new each time you read it.
Who knows, you might just uncover the secret to creating your own financial success story.